Well, Regan, thank you very much for your time. Maybe you could just unpack for us this like construct of a accountant by day and a social crusader by night. How did that how did that happen? What were you seeing in your environment that called you to say, I need to get more involved?
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I've told the story. It's multifaceted in terms of me getting to that point where I said, okay, I need to do something. But I grew up in an area called Bishop Lavis in Cape Town. Very interesting area, lots of social ills, challenges, etc. Firstly, my mom and my dad, they started the whole process because my dad decided my mom shouldn't work, so she could instill discipline and structure in my life. So that was point number one. Point number two, I went to primary school in Bishop Lavis, but it was a very rough school, very, very, very rough school. Gang fights on the school, etc. So it was a very interesting environment. And my dad basically said, "Oh no, we need to get you out of Bishop Lavis from a schooling perspective." Went to DF Milan High School, and then from that point, I mean, lots of people started seeing my potential. The teachers started talking and speaking into my life, just telling me, work hard, you can achieve things. DF Milan was a whole other ball game. I passed, I passed well, and I went to Stellenbosch University where I studied BCom Management Accounting, and I became an accountant. And then I traveled a bit, took a sabbatical, traveled, etc. And when I came back, to answer your question, when I came back, I realized, oh wow, this boy from Bishop Lavis got to travel the world, did like really cool stuff. I mean, I watched Formula One, soccer, Barcelona. I started to dream, and I started doing all these things. And then I realized there were three things that happened for myself to be able to get there. I had discipline and structure, which my mom gave me. I had my dad financially investing in my future, meaning I could go to DF Milan High School. And thirdly, I got a really good education. I had people speaking into my life. And when I came back in 2014, I was overseas. Somebody contacted me and asked, do I want to be part of this organization called Training for Changes, which uses futsal as a catalyst to engage youth and to teach them character development, etc. And I was like, awesome, I love soccer, totally. And I love people, and I understand the importance of education, etc. Let me go for it. And I joined them in 2014. And that's where it started. I was like, okay, somebody spoke into my life, gave me structure, gave me discipline, supported me. So let me do that for somebody else.
And it's quite interesting. I can't say that sport as a catalyst for change is something that people don't understand. You do see a lot of programs where sport at a community level is being used to change the lives of young men and women who have either found themselves on the wrong side of the tracks. So sport has always been used. But there are aspects of sport that is quite unique. The construct of teamwork and what teamwork means. Teamwork isn't just we kick the ball together on a soccer pitch. Teamwork is in every other aspect, whether it's a teamwork dynamic within a family, teamwork dynamic at work. And within that dynamic, there's a way of talking, there's a way of relating, there's a way of engaging. How do you approach the construct of teamwork as a positive influence in the lives of young people who might only deal with that concept in your organization, and when they go home might not necessarily, like you've mentioned, have the discipline, have the support of both mom and dad. Support is important, but being able to then facilitate your dreams like your father did by financially supporting you is a very important concept. How do you use the term teamwork, the construct of teamwork, as an enabler?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I think one thing you mentioned very clearly is that teamwork goes beyond the field. It's like you said, within the family, within the community, within the country. You can take it all the way. And one of the things we use, firstly, we use purposeful play on the field, where we use futsal. Teamwork, we would use various forms of play with on the field to teach teamwork. But more importantly, and how we get that connection between doing it on a soccer field and implementing it within real life, is the fact that we have real conversations after that. So we do a little activity using purposeful play in order to demonstrate teamwork. But then we have real deep conversation, and we'll ask them, how can you use this within the community? What's the issue here? Why is teamwork important? Can you explain to me at school how you can implement this within a class environment? So the question around the fact that there is no support for them on an ongoing basis, what we see is the world as a whole, every interaction, every day, whether it's at school with their school friends, with their friends at home, there's always an opportunity to implement these characters, skills and things we teach them. A very silly example, but I had a one-on-one, because my wife and I, we have this Reggie Mayer Education Fund where we fund some of the Training for Changes boys to go to a high school called Calling Academy in Stellenbosch. And I see them once a quarter catch up to hear what's been the challenges, what's been good, how is school, can just hear what subjects aren't working, how can we help you, etc. But once we were in the car and I picked them up, and it was Nakane and Eva, and there's 3 boys at this point, and I was driving and I said, what are we going to eat, man, while we have, very important, while we discuss these things, we need to fill our bellies. And I was like, pizzas, burgers, whatever, come on, you tell me. They're like, no, coach. They call us coach. No, coach. We have to wait for Earl. Earl has to be in the car before we make this decision. And it seems trivial, but it's a 13-year-old, 14-year-old boy telling me this, and we're teaching them such great principles. They were like, no, it's not for us. We decide as a team. And that's a simple example, but you can take that much broader. So it's just something that really warmed my heart when that happened.
And it really does speak to also not only to the point of teamwork, but when you start having empathy for others, when you start understanding that you're part of a larger experience. And so the other key takeaways also is that your action will have influence on someone else. And the mere fact of just the gesture of waiting means that they understand the value of that person, and they all are considerate of his feelings, which then means that that person, once they become an adult, will then be considerate of other people's feelings. When you want that award, because the award isn't just the Spirit of Volunteering Award, it was a highly contested category because there are other colleagues of yours that are doing exceptional programs. But for me, what the award actually means is that this person has gone beyond what we even as an organization constitute as a volunteerism. And for me, that is almost in many ways is that medal of bravery that a soldier gets, or a medal of honor when they have gone beyond the call of duty. Do you view it in the same way that, yes, there's volunteerism, but what you've done, what your team have done, what your wife has done, because it takes a community to raise a child and not just one person. Do you see it as going beyond the construct of volunteerism? And if you do, can you, just the top of your mind, think of some of the sacrifices you've had to engage in order to make sure that you are present, that you engage, because you still have a full-time job, you have a family, and then you've taken on another family?
That's a very good question, Sam. If I have to unpack your question, for myself, talking about your question around did I go beyond, something we want to instill with us as a family is that we must perceive that as normal, to see the other person, to impact the other person, to support the other person. So within the normal construction of life, I assume it's perceived as going beyond the normal line of duty. But for ourselves and our family, just to answer that question, is it's very much ingrained in who we are as people. It's not only Training for Changes and Resume Education Fund, but what we try to do is implement that philosophy of seeing people, empathy, support, financial support, caring, time, into our daily lives. So whether it's our neighbor, whether it's our parents, whether it's our friends, to see the need and support them in that way. So from a DNA perspective, one of the things, I made a little poster long ago when my kids were a bit smaller, and we were a whole family on there. And one of our DNA, I call it our DNA of our family, was the fact that we must be a caring, supportive family. That's what we should be doing. When people see us, that's what they do. And so for ourselves, we don't see it as going beyond the line of duty, but there's definitely sacrifices. To answer that question, I mean financial sacrifices, because one of the things we do, and it's a mind shift, but when we get our salaries, we know already this component is donations and supporting initiatives. We don't even look at it. So if we need to get less food, we need to get less food, but that's our donation component. And that's what we do. That's one, I would call it a sacrifice, because I mean, we could buy toys or a car or whatever. And then secondly, it's time. I think time, giving enough time in order to engage the people, because you have your own family. So there's a sense of sacrifice in terms of on a Saturday, driving through to Stellenbosch, meeting with the bursars, discussing what's wrong. I WhatsApp my bursars sometimes, what's going on, if there's problems. We've had situations where the parents split up and the mom would call me and dad will call me because there's impact on the child's performance, and then the child will call me. So there's this time aspect, and I think that's definitely a sacrifice. But I mean, once you're really highly invested in your team and your people and the people you work with, you realize there's an end goal here. It's long term, it's a long game, and in order for you to make a difference, you need to sacrifice. You need to sacrifice money, time, and just of yourself in order to make a difference.
How do you square up the emotional toll that programs like this take? Because there is, in many ways, being a professional comes with some kind of EQ development. I mean, the reality is that in order to be an optimal professional at your job, you've got to be front and center, and you've got to deliver to the best of your ability, and that's the measure of your professional success. When you, on a personal level, are so invested in young people's lives, it's very emotional. As you've just alluded to, the fact that some of the parents have split up, which means that child might have started in one space emotionally, but because of the intra-turmoil within the family dynamic, that person is now at a different space. And that means that you, as a parent, as a coach, as a guide, as a facilitator, needs to almost be on all the time. How do you kind of marry this to that there is this professional person who has a family who needs to nurture and guide the immediate family, and then there is this volunteer caregiver facilitator, and that comes with its own emotional baggage? Where have you found the balance there?
It's interesting. I think for myself, what makes it a bit easier is the fact that I think within the family context, what I alluded to earlier in terms of DNA, family DNA, it's something we believe as a family. So when we get the call, they're calling me, but they're calling us as family. We're in this together. My wife knows what's going on. So we very much, how I linked it to is the fact that this isn't something I'm doing. This is something we are doing. And that makes it a lot easier. So if somebody calls me at 9 o'clock, my wife understands the value of what we're doing and the fact that as a family, we are investing and we're changing people's lives. So to answer that question, I think what makes it a lot easier is the fact that it's a team game for us. We're doing this together. I'm the face of the interaction, but my wife is very much there behind me. And even my 6-year-old, he understands. I speak to him all the time about how we invest in people's future, their education. We will have conversation. He'll ask me, so why are you seeing them? And I'll explain to him what we're doing, why we're doing it. so that he needs to understand the complexity of South Africa. Not everybody can get a Lego Technique toy. Some people get a lollipop. He asked me silly questions like, not silly, but why are they walking? Why aren't they driving? And that's a very profound question, because that's all teaching moments. So sorry, I'll give you a long answer here, but the point is what makes it emotionally easier for us is the fact that it's a collective emotive process we're going through. We're all doing it together, which makes it easier. And we all have a heart for change. That's the thing. Our family has a heart for change.
Final question. I'm going to ask you the stock standard. How do you feel post the awards? Because it's always great. Recognition is always great. I mean, whether you live for recognition, whether it's a byproduct of the work that you do. But is there a moment or outside of the Lesedi Awards, you've always known that you're on the right path and you're doing the right thing? Or when your employer or the company you work for, the people, the group you work with, recognize something that you're doing that's external to the organization, does it make it more special? Or do you sit there and go, oh, we are doing the right thing? Or is it just one of the things of it's something we were going to do anyway?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think all of us are, as human beings, I think we're all programmed that if somebody compliments you, I assume you let off dopamine or something, and it makes you feel good. So I always equate it to that. It's like we never did it to be recognized. I mean, we started 2014. I got the award in 2021. I mean, so that's a 7-year run, long game. Lots of financial sacrifices, lots of time, but we never did it to get recognition. What's amazing about Momentum Metropolitan providing the award, for myself being, my wife had a business as well, so we understand the importance of sustainability. What I would like to come from this, not for myself, but for the kids, for the organization, is for us to understand, and the organization as Momentum Metropolitan, that in order for this to work, we're not investing in a year. These kids, they join us when they're grade 1, grade 2. We're in the long game. We're going all the way to grade 12. Then they go to university. And my dream, I actually wrote it down. I sent it to one of the CSI managers at Momentum Metropolitan. I said, my dream is, it's threefold, is training for changes, takes care of character development of the boys, sees them every week on the field. Reggie Mayer Education Fund funds these kids. They go to high school, get education, and then Momentum Metropolitan at the end, when these kids get to study, goes, actually, you know what? We'll give you an internship. And then we close the loop. And then they get empowered. And then one day they go, okay, who is my boy or my little girl that I'm going to impact now? And that's a big dream. And that's something we're really trying to instill in them. It's bigger than yourselves. The long game is you get empowered to empower other people in the future.
Reggie Mayer, thank you very much for your time. Winner of the Spirit of Volunteering Award at the Lesedi Awards. I really appreciate your time. Keep up the amazing work. And yeah, I look forward to at some point to send a film crew to one of your workshops with your team and kind of see what you guys do hands-on.
Awesome, Sam. That'd be amazing. You must come, bring your soccer boots, and then I don't know if you're a goalkeeper or a on-field player, a striker, but bring it.
Yeah, at some point I fancied myself a striker, then I realized it was a lot of work, and then I was a ref and I could never keep up with the ball, and so now I'm just on the field wherever you need me, so I'm happy to strap it on and come and join you. Thanks, Reggie.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, Sam. Thanks for your time.
For more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on our social mediums.